Since the theme of this holiday season is hospitality, we thought that a nice way to kick this off would be to have a non-alcohol drink recipe. So what we have planned tonight are a contest for the best non-alcohol recipe.
Whereas there is a society-wide need to address the issue of drinking and driving, and whereas the Responsibility Hospitality Mixer at the Edgewater is indicative of the active year-round efforts of the restaurant community in making an education process and mitigating drinking and driving tragedies, now therefore I hereby thank the Santa Cruz Area Restaurant Association and declare this date as Responsible Hospitality Day in the city of Capitola.
This Responsible Hospitality Party has brought together an unlikely coalition from throughout the community, including people from bars and restaurants, from public health, from City Hall, from law enforcement. Why? To celebrate a new consciousness in alcohol beverage service. Another fatal crash caused by too much alcohol, and chances are that the driver responsible began this tragic night in a restaurant or bar. Too often we deal with this issue only in terms of the individuals involved, but the consequences of drinking and driving ripple throughout the entire community, touching the lives of all those who live and work there. This is a community problem, requiring community action. But what action to take? One approach has been to broaden the concept of dram shop liability, under which the providers of alcohol can be held legally responsible for the actions of their customers. The hospitality industry often responds by offering short training programs for restaurant and bar staff. But while these programs may increase awareness of the problem, they do not involve either management or the community at large. Clearly, a more comprehensive solution is needed, one that ensures that meaningful changes are made in the ways in which alcohol is served and consumed. A community-based solution. The Responsible Beverage Service Program is built on the premise that community interests must take the lead in setting standards for alcohol service, then work with the hospitality industry to ensure that these standards are met. It is this emphasis on community participation, combined with a training program which focuses on the drinking environment, which makes the Responsible Beverage Service Program an effective model for confronting the question of alcohol use.
Our local program will go a long ways in reducing the amount of alcohol abuse in our licensed premises, and having as many licenses outstanding in this community as we do. It's an impossible job for the police to do alone. It's an impossible job for the individual manager or employee to do, but as a group, they can accomplish that task.
From the restaurant owners, operators' point of view, we're in a win-win situation here. We reduce our exposure to dram shop laws. We have the opportunity to increase our sales through innovative marketing techniques. Our employees are reducing their exposure to the dram shop laws. And by all of this taking place, we're not sending people out on the highways that are intoxicated. So we're taking the drunk drivers off of the highway.
I would say this is something that has a real honest chance of starting to influence the norms of the community towards, yes, let's come and recreate, let's have a good time. If we want to use a little alcohol along the way, that's fine, but let's be responsible. That, I think, will carry over to other aspects of the community, and it will just make the place a healthier community for us all.
Ultimately, I think what a server training program can do, it can be a tremendous benefit to the community in terms of improving the quality of life and reducing drunk driving accidents, and really improving the kind of the professional level of the hospitality industry.
There is no one right way to bring a responsible beverage service or RBS program into your community, nor does it require any professional training. Many different groups can take the lead and gain the necessary skills. But there are a number of key steps which should be followed, steps designed to ensure that the entire community, not just the hospitality industry, feels responsibility for the program.
Well, I think the first step in developing programs such as this is to assess where the community is at in terms of alcohol-related problems. What past histories have there been around controversies with alcohol, what groups have been active, what groups are potentially active, where is potential leadership within the community for dealing with an issue like this. Another assessment factor would be how well organized the industry is itself, and how well do they talk to each other, because that will have a major impact on how you would design a program such as this.
Assessing where an individual community stands at the outset helps determine appropriate goals and the best strategy for introducing the program. In Santa Cruz County, California, this assessment focused first on the alcohol-related conflicts present in the community.
Well, we've had a number of controversies related to alcohol locally, and the biggest one was in our beach area. Even though we've had it on the books for almost 20 years that you can't drink alcohol on the beach, the police department decided to begin enforcing it about 2 years ago. And there was an uproar from businesses in the beach and an uproar from locals that like to go down and have a beer or two on the beach and felt like they were different from tourists coming into the area. And together, we tried to work out a way that the industry could operate, the industry could flourish, and yet our needs in terms of law enforcement, safety, and tourism were still met. And I think it was a real catalyst to have these controversies, because I think it made everybody take it seriously.
Issues such as these helped leaders in Santa Cruz draw attention to the link between an individual's drinking behavior and the ways in which alcohol is served. And as public concern increased, so did pressure for change. Every community will find its own opportunities on which to build this type of awareness and concern. For instance, publicizing a fatal crash involving a driver who'd been drinking at a local bar or restaurant can have a dramatic impact on public sentiment. The goal is to create an atmosphere in which the issue of alcohol service and use becomes a priority, establishing a favorable climate for change. As public concern grows, representatives from across the community should join together to reach a common ground on their expectations concerning the service of alcoholic beverages. Then, once these community standards are set, a dialogue with the hospitality industry should begin. Convincing restaurant and bar owners that it's in their best interest to become involved in the program is one of the greatest challenges communities face.
That the whole key is incentive. Without incentive, nothing is going to happen. So things like decreased fees, insurance rates, and whatever can be used in that area seems to me to be what is going to get people there.
I think that's really true. I mean, I think that's one of the major issues that we've been trying to cope with, and that is, if we have mandatory training, we know people are going to get their bodies there. But that is not politically viable at this point. So,
however communities choose to approach the industry, the important thing is to begin the dialogue. Understanding each other's position helps remove the barriers which can impede real change.
What this program did is really offer an institutional relationship that hadn't existed before, and that many levels of government that deal with this, whether it's substance abuse, alcohol abuse at the county level, whether it's law enforcement at the city or the county level, whether it's general management in the court system, you could see it in an organized fashion come into contact with the industry and the industry that serves alcohol.
And if you look closely at the interests of the industry and the interests of the community, the bottom line for both groups is that it's, first of all, bad for the community to have people abuse alcohol. So from a community perspective, the goal is to prevent alcohol abuse. From a hospitality industry perspective, it's bad business to have people get drunk in your establishment or become intoxicated in your establishment, and you work to try to avoid that. So both groups have the same vested interest of preventing alcohol abuse, but traditionally they have viewed each other as adversaries rather than allies in the endeavor of trying to prevent this problem.
well, our colleagues have in the past called us representatives Carrie Nation and the Saloon Keeper, and so I think that probably represents their perspective and ours as well, as representing extreme kinds of of positions.
Our group did feel very threatened by dealing with, especially with the Alcoholism Advisory Council of the county. We had perceived them as being very much of having a prohibitionistic slant, and frankly, that's threatening to someone who's in a business whose livelihood depends on the sale of alcoholic beverages, and it was frightening. And what I hope we've done is to let people know in these other parts of the community that business people aren't just ruled and guided by the bottom line, that they feel themselves a part of the community, especially in this community, and want to participate and want to feel a responsibility to deal with these issues.
I think there are goals, there are places where we can come together that are not mutually exclusive to either public health or alcohol interests, alcohol industry interests, and we have to look at where those places are. I think there will always be places where we're going to disagree, and we have to be willing to accept that, but we have to look at the places where we can agree.
And I hope that one of the realizations in this is, I firmly believe that we can go farther, we can get more accomplished in terms of the goal of reducing tragedies associated with overconsumption if we're working together, as opposed to having that adversarial relationship. That's going to set us back. We're not going to be able to have as much impact on this problem unless we're working together.
After an assessment has been made of the community, the issue of alcohol service has been established as a concern, and community members have reached agreement on community-wide standards. Then a training program can be put into place. But what to include in such a program? For one thing, an emphasis on the drinking environment.
Our project was an outgrowth of the study that was done at the San Diego Naval Club a couple of years ago, in which they looked at the environmental factors that were contributing to high rates of intoxication among the patrons in the club. So what they devised was a training program that taught servers how to recognize the signs of intoxication, as well as how to handle an intoxicated customer. And then we're able to do environmental factors such as eliminating the sale of pitchers, assigning waitresses to particular stations, and changing last call, so that what ended up happening in the study is they reduced intoxication rates by about 50%.
Responsible beverage service training begins with restaurant and bar management, encouraging them to assess their establishment with these concepts in mind. A series of workshops is designed to educate managers on the principles behind responsible policies. The focus is on community relations, good hospitality, and economics, as managers learn why it's in their best interest to reevaluate their approach.
So overall, if you looked at what we talked about so far, what you have is the various influencing forces on you to change your business practices. Economic is certainly one of the priorities. And with the changing consumer, there are economic opportunities for you to reduce your risk and expand your sales opportunities. And that being responsible and being profitable are not necessarily contradictory. And generally, if you focus in on responsible, good service and get your staff dedicated to that idea, your fears and your concerns about liability will take care of themselves. I don't think you really have to worry about that. Well, when you look at the overall approach that we take, we certainly focus in, first of all, on managers. And more we're requiring that managers sit down and develop some policies. Because from our experience with working just with servers, the servers come, they are trained, they're told that they have to do these things, and they go back to an establishment where the managers don't know what they're supposed to do, don't support the recommendations of the training, or make the servers do something that contradicts the training, or they have promotions and practices which override what the training teaches. You have a very frustrated server and a server who is less likely to do what they've been trained to do.
Once the managers have been through the program, servers are taught their legal responsibility, as well as the concepts and techniques that make up good hospitality.
Hopefully up front, one of the first interviews you do with them, you make some decisions. Combining your sizing up and your interview, you rate that customer. And I'm going to say you can rate them red, yellow, or green, like a traffic light, or high risk, medium risk, low risk. What would red mean?
Servers learn such things as how to determine a person's capacity for alcohol and gauge their rate of service accordingly. They learn how to recognize if a customer is underage or has a false ID, and how to use selling techniques that reduce risk while increasing profits. Role-playing exercises are a critical part of good training, providing an opportunity for servers to try out what they've learned in a safe environment.
Hello, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Great.
Good. How's it going over there?
Well,
I haven't seen you guys for a while. Hi.
How's it going?
It's all right. A lot of extra work.
Yeah. How was the driving to get here?
It was curvy, as usual.
Curvy?
Yeah, it's curvy, yeah.
Would you like anything tonight? Something from our menu?
Yeah, maybe. What do you have?
Oh, well, we have plenty to eat and...
What do you recommend? How about that?
Oh, let's see. Are you very hungry?
Well, I don't know. Convince me. What do you got that's
we got
good?
some great chicken.
Good. You got
Fried chicken?
No, that's too heavy.
Nachos?
Nachos. Nachos might be good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's light. Finger food, right?
Mm-hmm. Anything go with that?
Yeah, what goes good with nachos? You know, I haven't had them for a long time. Beer, I guess. How about some Corona? That goes with nachos, right? Mexican beer, Mexican food. How about that? Stick one of those limes down there. Not a small. Don't be stingy with the lime, all right?
Okay.
Coke, a couple of lime slices down in that bottle for me. Okay?
Okay, sure.
All right. Well, let's stop now. Am I a regular customer? Just trying to be a regular, ordinary customer, somebody who's been here before, probably, feel comfortable in the place. And what she's doing, I wasn't saying I wanted food, right? I didn't come in and say, give me food. She said to me, she does this suggestive selling, would you like some food? And I say, like a lot of customers do, like what? You know, or what's your special, or, you know, that kind of, convince me. And she tells me some things. And she tells me the right kind of things. 2 good suggestions, both of which will work, and I'm going to take one of those suggestions. Now maybe she's going to get the impression I might want to have 2, 3, or 4, or 5 of those Coronas. But she's got time to deal with that, because she can come back later on. She can keep coming back, and she can reassess me each and every time. She can rate me. Probably right now I'm a green. Maybe I'll be a yellow in a while. If I am, she's going to have to slow me down. Maybe I'll become a red, hopefully not. But if I do, and even if I become a yellow, someone she begins to use caution with, what are you going to do? If I become a little dangerous in my drinking a little bit too fast and so forth, and you tell me to slow down, what else are you going to do? What are you going to do with her who works with you, who's on this floor with you?
Tell her that you've been drinking too much.
You're going to tell her to watch out for me, right? What if you cut me off? You're certainly going to tell her, because if you don't, what am I going to do?
Try to get some from her.
From her. So communication is key.
I started looking at these guys from a health standpoint, you know, from a responsibility standpoint, and, you know, I really don't want to serve you that 3rd drink today. I mean, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just don't believe in it anymore. And the RBS program has implemented this training, or has brought about this training, so now we're creating policies that pertain exactly to these individuals. And we are now training people, besides management, we're training servers and bartenders right on down the line to recognize these people, recognize these situations, and how to learn how to cut these people off, or how to just say, hey, listen, I'd like to buy you a Calistoga. How about a Coke today? How about some juice instead of that screwdriver?
Yeah. And once you have established policy, it's much easier to deal with any kind of a problem. Before this point in our restaurant history, we had policies, but they were not black and white. We had a lot of gray areas.
Yes.
And when you have gray areas, it's very difficult to say no here, yes here, this is the way it is. But when you have policy, it's much easier to say, that's our policy. We just can't serve you anymore. It's much easier for the server and for the management person.
It's all about creating a better environment. I don't think alcohol creates a better environment, and I'm in the alcohol business, the alcohol serving business, and that's something that's really important for people to understand, is that I don't think that by selling more drinks or giving them away at 2 for 1, that you're really doing yourself any good.
Simply introducing an RBS program is not enough to ensure its success. The ultimate goal must be to make responsible alcohol beverage service a permanent part of community life. Working with local news outlets and other media can be particularly effective in bringing the message to the entire community. Active promotion through flyers, posters, and public relations events can also help to reinforce key principles and draw attention to the individual efforts being made. And if the program is to be successful in the long run, the community must continue to monitor the hospitality industry and local government agencies to see that the established standards are being met. Without some procedure for review and evaluation, the program can easily become an exercise in public relations, which fails to produce any meaningful change in behavior. The final form the program takes will vary depending on the circumstances and resources within each community. Santa Cruz, for instance, relies on a voluntary program with incentives for participation. On the other hand, health officials in the tourist community of Park City, Utah, are pleased with the results of the mandatory server training now being conducted throughout their state.
Server training is one component in the overall prevention scheme of things, but it's a very important component because it deals with the issues surrounding a tourist community such as ours, and we can have an opportunity to impact the tourists that are here on a temporary basis. And so server training provides us with an opportunity to do some things in the environment that will be very supportive of our other activities that occur in the schools and in the homes and in the media. And so it's a very important component and one that we feel very strongly about.
Because people don't yet understand what all it involves, there are some perceived drawbacks in the hospitality industry in that they think perhaps their profits are going to go down, or that we're preaching the revival of prohibition and we're trying to outlaw drinking and all those kinds of extreme viewpoints, and that isn't really true. If server training is done well, the customers are happy, the establishment prospers, and you've got reduced liability for the servers. So I personally don't see any drawbacks at this point.
A year ago, we kicked off responsible hospitality, and since that time, we have provided educational programs for over 4 restaurants, have trained over 300 people, and are committed to the education of all of our members in this area. We will continue to work in this area because we feel that this is a vital issue and one that the Santa Cruz Area Restaurant Association wishes to take the lead.
One of the points of doing something like this is to show people and demonstrate to people that you can have a good time at a party without having to have alcohol be a major part of it. And again, because the Restaurant Association is sponsoring it, I think that's a very important message for the community to hear from the restaurant people. The whole premise of the event and then the project is to bring the community in on the program. That's why we're so pleased to see so many people come and be a part of this thing. That's exactly what you need to make a program like this a success.
When communities set standards for alcohol consumption and service and work to ensure that these standards are met, they can have a dramatic impact on the problem of drinking and driving. The Responsible Beverage Service Program can show you how. If you'd like more information on starting an RBS program in your community, please contact the Marin Institute for the Prevention of Alcohol and Other Drug Problems.
Mm-hmm.